Hey everybody. So I'm a day late on this. I promised that I would do more stuff about macronutrients and basic nutrition. So today I'm going to talk about carbohydrates. And I'll review back here. We're talking about there's three basic macronutrients. There's dietary fat, there's carbohydrate, and protein. They all serve very distinct purposes in your body. But again, just to review, anything you eat is going to end up doing one of three things. It's either going to provide fuel, that's either for right now, in the near future, or in the long-term future in the form of stored energy, which is body fat. Or it's going to provide the building blocks to regenerate tissues in your body, repair damage, build new tissues, that kind of thing. Or the third thing, it's going to be excreted. So it either creates energy, creates new parts of you, or goes in the potty. I just got to use that kind of language. I got this weird thing going on with my eye here today. So carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the latest thing to be demonized. So I talked about how dietary fat was demonized in the 80s. Well, if you've heard of the South Beach diet, the Atkins diet, paleo, carbohydrates get a bad rap in all of them to a greater or lesser degree. That's sort of a misguided, one of these sort of magic bullet ideas. Hey, if I just take this one thing out, I will magically look exactly how I want to look and my body will function the way I want it to function. It does not work that way, trust me. I've done Atkins, I've done South Beach in the past, and I was also a paleo adherent for about 2 years. Atkins and South Beach I would stay really far away from. Paleo has got some merit to it, but I won't go into that. That would be a really long, kind of dissertation-y sort of a thing. I'm not a low-carb adherent for a lot of reasons. Carbohydrates are the primary fuel source for your body. Eliminating them entirely is a terrible idea. It will impact performance. Just to give you a little bit of an idea about the reason why South Beach, why Atkins, why those things draw people in, is that when you go extremely low carbohydrate, within the first couple of weeks, you will lose a lot of weight. I mean, probably more than you ever have on any other diet, very, very rapidly. And the reason behind this is very, very simple. You are depleting the glycogen stores in your body. That's the fuel source that your muscles, that your brain uses, your organs use. And one of the things about glycogen is that it bonds with water. So when you pull the carbohydrate out of your diet to a high degree, you aren't giving your body any way to hold on to stored water. So, boom, you drop 10 pounds. Some people as much as 15 pounds within about 2 weeks. And they think, oh my God, I've lost so much weight. Yes, the number on the scale has moved down, but your body hasn't really changed very much at all. And how you can demonstrate this is that if you do follow one of these really low carbohydrate diets for a few weeks and you lose like 10 pounds, and then you go and you eat some bread, and I mean literally within a day or two, 5 pounds, 6 pounds, 7 pounds, boom, right on. Because as soon as you put that carbohydrate back in, that glucose back into your body, and then you drink some water, you've taken some fluid, those water molecules bind up with that, and all of a sudden you weigh more. Your body is like 75% water anyway. So anything you do that causes you to shed water will actually cause you to lose weight. but it's just a number on a scale. It doesn't actually have anything to do with your body fat percentage or leanness or fitness. It's just a number on a scale. But that's another thing I could go into for a really, really long time. So what are we talking about when we talk about carbohydrate? And I'm going to go base, some of you may know this, but I'm going to go basic, super simple on you, okay? What we're talking about here is refined grains. We're talking about sugar, alcohol, and starches. And yes, alcohol is a carbohydrate. Alcohol is actually a form of sugar. This is one of the reasons why people who suffer from alcoholism tend to also have a sweet tooth. There are some people believe that there is a gene for alcoholism. I tend to agree with that, and that when somebody's got that gene, they've also got that same sort of compulsion or attraction to sweets. I come from a long line of accomplished alcoholics, I like to say, on both sides of my family. And so I've definitely seen that manifest in me in terms of, in previous years where I was just all about the give me the sugar, give me the sugar, give me the sugar. Anytime I was kind of emotionally challenged or mentally challenged, I would tend to go for that. So there you go. And one of the things to know about alcohol is that alcohol carries a bigger calorie load than other sugars. So it's one of the reasons why people who drink a lot tend to have a hard time controlling their body weight, either up or down, actually. But that's again, that could be a whole other video. Starches simple starches like white rice, potatoes, those are all carbohydrates. Now there's also carbohydrates contained in other foods, in vegetables, in fruits. Those are complex carbohydrates. So simple carbohydrates, kind of starchy stuff, the simple sugars, the refined grains, the flours, potatoes, alcohol. Complex carbohydrates come in the form of broccoli, apples, real food. So to sort of understand how this works, like fats are way more calorie dense than carbohydrate, but dietary fats aren't as risky from an overeating standpoint, because you have to be an accomplished overeater to overconsume dietary fat. And the example that I use for this is pretty much all of us could sit at a restaurant and they bring us a bowl of bread. It's a typical restaurant trick to get you to eat more. They bring us some bread and we eat the whole bowl, right? You got two people sitting at dinner and they bring us what amounts to a small loaf of bread and we eat it all. No problem, right? What if they brought us a stick of butter? You ever tried to eat a stick of butter? I mean, you could do it, but you probably wouldn't feel like eating for a long time afterward, and it'd be a really unpleasant experience. I mean, you'd be choking it down at a certain point. And the reason for this, it has to do with the mechanism of how food gets digested in our bodies. Simple carbohydrates, sugars, flours, breads, that kind of stuff, starches like potatoes. We eat those and our stomach processes them like that, super fast. It begins the digestion process. It starts to empty it into our small intestine, which starts breaking it down and distributing it out to our bloodstream really, really fast. Dietary fats are the exact opposite of that. You eat something with a relatively high fat content in it, and it takes your stomach hours to break it down and get it into a form that can then move into the small intestine. So when you eat a balanced meal, one of the things that happens is that the speed with which that meal is digested is dictated by pretty much the most difficult thing to process in the meal. So a little bit of dietary fat up with the carbohydrates slows down the digestion of the carbohydrates. So you don't get that spike of glucose into your bloodstream quite so fast. There are certain circumstances in which that's a terrible idea to do. I talk to cyclists and runners about this all the time, that eating something in the morning, before you're going to go on a big long ride or you're going to go on a long road, your breakfast, you kind of need to stay away from the eggs and the bacon with your breakfast, because that dietary fat is going to really, really slow down the absorption of the carbohydrates and other nutrients, so that you'll have to do your event, your run, basically on whatever you had eaten the night before, and that can tap out. I mean, I'm talking about runners who are going to run half marathon or longer distance, or cyclist who's going to do a century, which is 100 miles on a bike. You'll get on that century, you'll get 20 miles in, and you're done. You're tapped out. And then what they'll do, cyclists will be goos and gels and sports drinks to try and catch up. But the problem is that's all just falling into the queue. It's not going to go through. It's not going to pass. Get in line. Excuse me. I'm going to get around you. Dietary fat. I'm going to get around you and go into your bloodstream. It doesn't work that way. That dietary fat's going to slow the whole thing down. I mean, just an example of how easy it is to overeat on simple carbohydrates. I was on a business trip one time about, I'm going to say like 9 years ago, to Chicago with my boss and a coworker. And we flew in, and we got in time for dinner, and my boss said, "Hey, I'll take you guys out to dinner." And we're like, "Okay, cool, the company's going to buy us dinner." And we were going to get to talk about strategy for this trip that we were on. And he chose Buca di Beppo, which is a big, they're a chain of pasta places that's notorious for these plates of pasta that, that span the wingspan of a predatory bird. I mean, these things are huge. And I went in there. This is before I started understanding how I was overeating and how I was eating the wrong stuff, and I really knew anything about nutrition. And I went in and I ordered a plate of penne alla vodka, which is really, really good there. Now, I think the intent from Buca di Beppo is that this is supposed to be this plate that everybody shares. Well, I got it for myself. I mean, and this was a plate of pasta. It was like this wide and this deep. I ate the whole thing. I think I drank like 3 glasses of wine. I ate the whole thing. I mean, I can't even begin to calculate the calorie load on that. I'm thinking it was probably 4 to 5 days worth of food. And I had no problem getting that in my body. No problem at all. I couldn't have done that if it was a steak, or, bring me a quiche that's that. No way. Could not have done it, even then, when I was an accomplished overeater. So it's kind of important to understand what you're dealing with macronutrients. If I only knew then what I know now about proper portions, I would have understood that. And then this is the stunner for you, is that most people have no idea what a proper portion of pasta is. And I'm going to give it to you right here. Okay, so take your hand, cup it like so. The amount of pasta that you could hold, and that, if you're a woman, that's a portion. If you're a man, it's 2. I'll let that sink in for a little bit. You have probably rarely eaten an appropriate amount of pasta if you've eaten pasta. This is one of the reasons why we have an obesity epidemic in America right now. Because people don't understand portions. They don't understand the amounts. I didn't, and I couldn't figure it out. When I started trying to lose weight, trying to get fit, I couldn't figure it out. I was getting stronger from my workouts, my endurance was going up, but I was still fat. And I couldn't figure out why, what's going on here. And when I learned about proper portions, that was the key. So, I'll leave you with this. There's different systems that I can offer going forward for people on how to handle educating themselves about proper portion control and educating yourself about proper nutrition. If you are interested in that, please leave me a comment, let me know. I will be happy to help you out. There are lots of different levels of solutions that we can come up with. And, you know, I want you to succeed. Health, fitness is really important, especially the older that we get. This becomes a question of being able to take care of yourself in your golden years. That's not something to take lightly. I'm going to do another one of these videos, a couple more of these, but the next one I'm going to talk about protein. So stay tuned for that. If you got questions, comments, if you're interested in different solutions for portion control, comments, please. And thank you, and have a fantastic weekend. I mean, here in California, it is beautiful today. And I'm going to a wedding, so that'll be fun. See you tomorrow.